All right, so let's just do one more quickly, which is something that you hear all the time when there are these natural disasters, that there's this predatory pricing. There are people down in a flood zone and they have entire boats filled with bottled water and they're charging $10. It's predatory, it's nasty, it's evil, it's wrong, and therefore government. What's your response to that?
Well, I lived through Hurricane Irma down here in Florida. We didn't know day to day what part of the state it was going to hit. We just kept hearing all different stories. First it was going to hit one side of the state. It was going to hit Miami. And then it was all of a sudden, no, Tampa is the one. Tampa's the place you just drove to escape it. Now it's going to hit Tampa. And then now it's going more toward the center. Nobody knew what was going to happen. But one thing I did know, and I think I said on Twitter, is I sure hope there are plenty of price gougers around to help me out after this thing is over. I want the price gougers. So the thing of it is this. Let's suppose there is a natural disaster. There's suddenly a huge strain on existing resources. There's no time all of a sudden to build 10 additional hotels. All we have are the existing hotels. So what I would want is I would want the hotel rooms to be more expensive than usual so that my family would, basically we can scrounge into one hotel room. It won't be comfortable, but, Abe Lincoln lived in a log cabin. We can survive for a few nights in an uncomfortable hotel. And that way, instead of us splitting up into two rooms, which is what we normally do when we travel, we all fit into the one room because we can't afford the two rooms now. That opens up another room for somebody else. This is a way that we ration what exists. I mean, we can ration by gunpoint, if you like it that way. One way or another, you have to ration. There are only so many resources there. And the price system is a way of rationing. But also it's a way of rationing that encourages additional supplies to come in. I'd open my own house if I was going to get that much money to put people up in. So there's that. All of a sudden, areas of supply you wouldn't even thought of become available. Or you gave the example of water. Well, if somebody finds out they're able to sell water for $10 a bottle, there are people 2 states away who will load up their trucks and drive down there to supply water just to get a piece of that, who, if the water was selling for $1.50, who's going to get off his chair, in Mississippi to go supply that water? But if it is $10, and by the time you get down there with all this supply, maybe you can only get away with selling it for $8 because now all these other people have been brought in. These are supplies that would not have come in if it weren't for the higher prices. Also, the higher prices tell people in other parts of the country, let's say in states near Florida, if let's say the demand for lumber to rebuild houses, the demand for lumber goes up, the price for lumber goes up, that indirectly tells somebody in North Carolina, you better really need to build that gazebo right now.
Right. Because
this lumber is really urgently demanded by people rebuilding their homes. And this is a way of prioritizing things that are urgently needed. So absolutely we want higher prices than before. Otherwise, people will just use up, they'll continue to use their existing pattern of consumption. Like maybe you like to drink 10 bottles of water a day. You don't need to stay alive, but maybe you do. Maybe you would go down to 5 if the price went up. That leaves 5 more for somebody else. That's a way of you not being antisocial. The high prices encourage you to think about other people.
Well, and it's so frustrating, Tom, when people say, well, capitalism doesn't protect the environment, but we're going to stop capitalists from raising prices to minimize usage. It's like, pick one, people. You can't have it both ways.